Hi everyone, I'm Ellen March and this is So What with Sulky. Happy Tuesday. I hope you're having a great day so far. I am a little conflicted about it being September, really. I honestly, I keep saying this, but I can't believe that the first few months of spring into summer felt like 5 years, and now that summer is ending and fall is upon us, it seems like it's going so fast. But September is an awesome month because it is National Sewing Month. And anytime there is a reason to celebrate sewing, I am here for it. And I'm glad you're here for it too, because we just have some great things in store for you all month long for the month of September. Starting with this fantastic sale that started today. So as I'm going through some products and projects today, keep in mind, the more you spend, the more you're going to save. Okay, so we have some codes for $15 off a purchase of $50 to $75, $25 off a purchase of $75 to $99.99, and a whopping $30 off a purchase of $100 or more. So great savings to be had. Jot down these coupon codes. They are also at sulky.com. So when you go to make a purchase, be sure to take note of those coupon codes so you don't miss out on the great savings. That is the first great deal. The second thing I want to mention is, like all of our Facebook Lives, we have a great giveaway today. We are going to be talking a lot about Sulky's Blendables thread. And if you have never used a Sulky blendable thread, they are just amazing decorative threads. The Blendables come in a 12 weight and a 30 weight variety. I'm going to focus mostly on using the 30 weight in our sewing machine for some decorative applications. So I will get into that a little bit later. But for all of you who are watching and liking the Sulky Facebook page, liking, loving, emojiing this post, commenting, sharing, we have a great giveaway, and if you're doing all those things and engaging with the post today, you could win our Fun with Blendables Sulky book. It is a Sulky classic, and there are lots and lots of tips for working with this specialty thread, as well as tons of projects in the book. So you could win this fabulous book if you are liking, sharing, commenting, all those great things. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about for National Sewing Month is a fantastic giveaway. It's actually a sweepstakes, okay? We partnered with some of our friends in the sewing industry to celebrate sewing and to basically reward all of you for all of your sewing efforts, for all the quilting and sewing you've been doing over this crazy pandemic that we've been having. We thought September, National Sewing Month, it's a great time to put out into the universe an awesome giveaway. So the sweepstakes includes all these things. I put a link to the sweepstakes in the description of today's post so you can go and you can enter. Anybody can enter to win. All you have to do is fill out your name, email address, a couple of things. That's all we ask of you. And a random winner is going to be chosen from all eligible entries, okay? This is what you could win. A 6-pack of the brand new Sulky Polystar. I talked about this thread a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to continue talking about it because I love it so much. It is a metallic Flect polyester thread, and it is the easiest metallic type of thread to sew. It is great for machine embroidery, great for quilting, top stitching, decorative stitching, all those little details when you want a little subtle sparkle into your projects. So a 6-pack of Polystar thread, a 6-pack of the Sulky cotton and steel thread. This is a 50 weight thread, and this is kind of what I consider to be the all-purpose Sulky thread. It's a 100% cotton thread. Like I said, 50 weight. It is awesome for piecing because the light weight of it allows you to press open seams, press seams to one side, however you like to piece together your quilts and piecing projects, and you don't have a little bump from your thread in that seam. It presses nice and flat because of its lightweight nature. I have also used it for garments, and it has held up great. It's not too thin. Your garment obviously stays together. I have also used it in the serger. So that's why I really consider it a multi-use or all-purpose type of thread. So a 6-pack of that, okay? You can also win the Sulky Sewists Stabilizer Bundle. This is a bundle of stabilizers that are really great for sewers, okay? So some people consider themselves quilters, some people consider themselves sewers, some people consider themselves all-over crafters. Let me know what you consider yourself, because I'm always curious to know, do you put a label on, you know, what you like to do best? Are you just an all-purpose omni-crafter? That type of thing. But at any rate, the Psoas Stabilizer Bundle contains Soft and Sheer Extra, Tear Easy, Tender Touch, and Sticky Fabri-Solvi. Now, you have heard me talk about these stabilizers a lot on So What, and I actually like to use a lot of them for quilting. I use almost all of those for machine embroidery as well. So they are great for a number of applications. So that is a bunch of Sulky stuff you can win. The cherry on the sundae, everyone, is the Husqvarna Viking Amber Air S 400. It is a serger. It is an air threading overlock machine. If you don't have a serger, sign up and enter the giveaway. If you're going to join us for our Serger webinar happening in a couple of weeks, or is it next week? I'm losing track of the days. It is next Tuesday. If you're joining us for that and you don't have a serger yet, enter to win. If you do have a serger, enter to win. You can always use another serger in your life. If you have never tried one, this is the perfect opportunity. Not to mention, so many sewing machines are out of stock right now, are unavailable to purchase. They're on back order because of everybody joining in the sewing effort to sew masks and things like that during the pandemic, and just to learn a new skill and to have something to do, right? So this is a great opportunity to win one, okay? Also included in the prize package is a big assortment of all different types of organ needles, all right? You'll get some universals, jerseys, embroideries, quilting, and top stitch packs of organ needles. Also, our friends at Havel's Sewing, they are providing a rotary cutter as well as a pair of fabric scissors. They're called Dura shears. And I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, my mom actually labeled her sewing scissors with a sticker that said, "You touch, you die." So our fabric scissors are very important, and this is a great opportunity to get a new pair and label it with whatever you want to label it with to make sure nobody touches it for anything else. Okay, to round out the giveaway, of course we need some fabric, right? And our good friends at Cotton and Steel Fabrics have provided a fat quarter bundle of one of their newest collections. It's called From the Desk Of. It's really cute little prints with some with paper clips and notebook paper on them. Lots of pretty florals are included in the collection, and it's a coordinating fat quarter bundle, and it's from their Winter 2020 collection. So this is your opportunity to get your hands on it and be one of the first to be creating something with it. So really, really cool, great, fantastic prize offering that you can win. So I really encourage you to go and sign up. All you have to do is fill out the little entry form and you're good to go. Also, if you share it with your sewing friends, you get more chances to win. So it's as easy as that. All right, so I should have been going over or showing you all of the things I was talking about while I was talking about them. But truth be told, and you probably saw this, I had to read everything to make sure I got it right. So I'll just briefly show you the images now so you can see. Here is the Sewists stabilizer bundle available at sulky.com. It's got those essentials that I talked about. So you'll get a mixture of cutaway, tearaway, and water-soluble stabilizers to use for your sewing. This is that great Polystar thread I was talking about that I showed. And here is that fabric collection. Isn't it cool? I mean, it's hard to see some of the prints because of the way it's folded, but I wanted you to see how the cotton and steel fabric coordinates with our cotton and steel thread perfectly. They are meant to do that. So make sure that, or not make sure, but just notice how all of those thread colors complement the fabric perfectly. It's great for a nice looking quilt. And then here is the rotary cutter and scissors from Havells that I was talking about. Great tools to have in your sewing arsenal. Organ needles, of course. I talk about organ needles all the time. The packaging is really what I like best about those. And here is that serger I was talking about. Can you just see this in your sewing room? I mean, come on. It's so pretty. Okay. So that is our sweepstakes. I wanted to make sure and show you all of those great things that you can win. So I see lots and lots of comments coming through, and that is wonderful. Thank you so much. From the people who comment, like, share, all those types of things for today's post, the giveaway is our Blendables book. Blendables in solid color cotton threads. All right, so that is our giveaway today. Without further ado, let's talk about Blendables. Let me know in the comments if you have tried the Sulky Blendables thread. The Blendables, what is unique about them is unlike other traditional variegated thread, which it is usually called, it is dyed randomly across the thread length. So you will get variations of color every 2.5 to 5 inches. So this means if you're doing straight line quilting, or even if you are doing, putting it in the serger and doing a like wave overlock stitch, something like this, decorative application, you won't get the same variations of color across each one of your stitching lines. It will be totally randomized. And it really just adds more of an artistic look to your projects when the color is randomized like that. So this is a little sampling of some of the Blendables colors. I am lucky enough to have both of the Dream collections of Sulky Blendables 30 weight. They come in great slimline storage containers. So there is a Dream collection and then there's a Dream collection 2. So if you want every single color, you can get them in these great storage boxes, which keep them away from dust and all of those types of things and really preserve your thread. And the other thing I really like about the slimline containers themselves is that when you go to get one of your spools out, you simply press on this little tab and your spool can come right off. The other thing I really like about it is there are some available spaces for you to store your other Sulky threads in. You can also label across and mark what numbers or colors go where, so that when you run out of one, you know what to replace it with. So there are a lot of benefits to getting these slimline storage boxes. We also have empty ones available at sulky.com, but why not get some thread with it? You know what I'm saying? All right, here is the Dream Package 2. I mean, I am such a lucky girl, right? And you could see in with quilting, you can also do machine embroidery using the 30 weight Blendables. And I talked about machine embroidery with 30 weight thread a little bit when we were debuting the Polystar, which is also a 30 weight thread. Most machine embroidery designs are digitized for 40 weight thread. The higher the number of thread, the thinner it is, okay? So 30 weight is heavier than a 40 weight, okay? So if a digitizer intends for their design to be sewn out with 40 weight, if you use 30 weight, it's going to be denser, okay? Your thread is going to fill a certain area a lot quicker than if you used a 40 weight thread. Does that make sense? So if you are using a design digitized for 40 weight and using 30 weight thread, keep in mind, it might be denser. It might have, you might have problems with your needle penetrating through all of those layers depending on how dense the fill stitches are for the certain area of that design. So what I recommend is if you're going to use a design not digitized for 30 weight, because some of them are and they're out there and you have to pay attention to the description to know if it's digitized for heavier thread. That's how you know. But if you are going to use a design, maybe it's built in on your machine and you love it, choose something like a quilting motif, a line art design, a design with a lot of open areas. Maybe only use the blendable 30 weight for one certain portion of the design. And then you can use your 40 weight for the remainder or for the dense filled areas. So the project I'm going to go over today is a zippered laptop case, rather, that I embroidered using the 30 weight Blendables. And it's actually made out of Kraft Tex paper fabric. What do they call it? They call it Kraft paper fabric, okay? So Kraft Tex, I put a link for this in today's description of the post. We do carry a limited stock of it at sulky.com. There is not a lot left. What we stock at Sulky are actually sheets, okay? But it also comes in rolls like this that you can use for larger projects, backpack, tote, that type of thing. And it's really cool. It is a heavy weight. It really does feel like, almost like cardstock that has been crunched up and then pressed flat. You can get it wet. You can iron it. You can stitch all over it. You're about to see I inserted a zipper into it. It's really, really some cool stuff. I do want to mention, if you are going to embroider on it, choose a design like I did, like I'm about to show you, because anything that's densely filled might perforate this Kraft Tex fabric and create a hole. So you want to be sure to use a needle as well that is not too large to create unnecessarily large holes in the paper fabric. So for this, I used a 9014 needle, but instead of using an embroidery needle, which has a slight ball point and would create too big of a hole in the Kraft Tex, I used a top stitch needle. Okay, sharper point, it's going to be more precise. It's going to create a hole that's just right for the thread to be in without any, excess hole around that thread, if that makes sense. So here is a picture of the laptop tote, and I love that it has this sort of crinkly look to it, and that is because when I was turning it right side out, I had to mush it all up, but then I actually ended up really liking it. So I didn't press it out. I left that crinkly look so that it almost looks like you've used leather or faux suede or something like that. It's kind of hard to see the embroidery in the light, but I wanted you to see the crinkly nature of the product. And then, oopsies. here is the back of the tote. So I decided just to top stitch a little pieced section of fabric to the back side of the Kraft Tex. So this is the project I will just briefly go over, but what I am focusing on is the embroidery on the Kraft Tex and showing off those blendable threads, the Blendables. So if you want the full instructions for this laptop tote, you can head on over to the Sulky blog. It's blog.sulky.com. If I didn't put a link to this blog post in the description, I will go in and revise it and also add it to the comments so that you can navigate easily to it. Because I'm not really going to go over the full construction of the bag. We would be here to next week just on the zipper alone. So make sure you head on over to the blog if you want full instructions with some nice photos that go along with it. So here you can see the design that I chose using the Blendables thread. Because it is 30 weight, it really fills the space quite nicely, right? The thread really pops off of that Kraft Tex, giving it a nice dimensional quality. And you can see that none of the flower petals really looks the same because it's all randomized. The color is all randomized across the length. So I thought that this design looked really cool. It's actually a quilting motif that is built into my machine. I use, well, I use a lot of machines, but the one I use mostly for embroidery is the Husqvarna Viking Designer Epic 2. And this is a built-in design from that machine. And yes, it is digitized for 40 weight thread. But as you can see, it is such an open design with just line art. So the 30 weight thread looks really great. And I used the Sulky bobbin thread. Sulky bobbin thread is 60 weight. So like I said, the higher the number, the thinner the thread. 60 weight is going to be considerably lighter weight than the 30 weight. And it just creates a nice balanced stitch that you can see. So that's the finished embroidery. Now, when you are doing embroidery on the Kraft Tex, you cannot hoop it. It is too thick and it would pretty much just, you would have a hoop ring that is basically burned into the Kraft Tex, for lack of a better term. So I do not recommend trying to hoop it. It's not going to work out. So what I like to do is my favorite technique, hoopless embroidery using Sulky Sticky Plus. This is the self-adhesive sticky backed stabilizer that has paper on the front of it. You hoop it with the paper side facing up, then score the paper inside your inner hoop ring and peel it off. And then it reveals the adhesive that you stick your Kraft Tex to. It is a tearaway, but I will tell you for this project, I actually left it behind the Kraft Tex. It stabilizes it a little bit more throughout using it. And instead of being super duper wrinkly, I only got a little crinkle here and there that again looked like kind of worn leather. So I really kind of liked that look. If you want to tear it away, just be really gentle when you are peeling it away from the Kraft Tex wrong side and make sure that you're just basically one hand is holding on to the back of your stitches while you're tearing it away. Yeah, I think those are my tips for that. The other thing you can do is use a cutaway stabilizer, and you can use Sulky KK2000, which is our temporary spray adhesive, and that will work on Kraft Tex as well. So you can hoop some cutaway stabilizer, spray it with the KK2000, and then put your Kraft Tex on top in the hoop. So those are two different ways of doing the hoopless embroidery technique that you have to do for this Kraft Tex. So you can see, I wanted to show you the start of the design because it just looks so pretty with all those different colors of thread happening right before your eyes. And then here it is finished in the hoop. And you can see also this is before I've turned the item right side out. So the Kraft Tex is very, very smooth, okay? When I insert that zipper, it gets a little bit tricky. I lined the whole thing with a pretty fabric, the fabric that I used for some of the piecing along the back of the laptop tote. Let me go back to that picture so you can see. So I lined it with one of these pretty fabrics, and there were a lot of layers for that zipper to contend with. So just keep that in mind. You need to be very, very careful turning everything right side out. You want to really make sure that you use a little bit longer stitch length when you are working with the Kraft Tex for regular sewing, because the closer your stitches are, the more sort of perforations, I guess you could say, or the more likely it is to perforate. So a little bit longer stitch is going to help you in that regard as well. All right, so like I said, all the instructions for that laptop tote are on the blog, so if you want to make that as well, you can. There are some other really cool things you can do with Blendables as well as with Kraft Tex. If you have never played around with Kraft Tex before, like I said, it's really fun. So what we have at Sulky.com, there's only about 5 left. I was just informed 5 left of this particular product. So if you want it, get it while you can. It comes in these sheets. So this would be for a little bit smaller project. And of course, you want to measure your laptop and make sure that you would have enough if that's the project that you want to do. Or make it for a smaller tablet. The same instructions would apply for a tablet or even a cell phone cover or something like that. So what we have are these sheets, and they come in multiple colors. So you don't just get this brown color, which is the one that I use for the laptop tote. You'll also get a sheet of, I think, red. So there's tan, red, brown. There's a few different sheets, color sheets in there. You can also mix and match them. One color on the front, one color on the back. And, you know, there are lots of projects you can do with it, like I said. Little wallets, a coin purse. There's really cute tote bags you can create, and there's a lot of great ideas for Kraft Tex also at the Sulky blog, not only that laptop tote. So here is another one that we featured at Sulky a couple of years ago in one of our webinars. This was done by Penguin and Fish, and that's actually hand embroidery done on the Kraft Tex. So if you want to show off those blendable threads or some decorative stitching, but you don't have an embroidery machine, you can do hand embroidery. And she used the Sulky Stick and Stitch product, which are printable sheets you can put through your printer and transfer your design onto. Then you cut it out and stick it onto the Kraft Tex right side. And like I said, you can get Kraft Tex wet. So you can rinse it when your embroidery is complete, and the stabilizer rinses away. You dry your Kraft Tex flat, and all that is left is your pretty hand embroidery. So for hand work, I recommend you get the 12 weight Blendables thread, because 12 weight is easier to manage with handwork, and it acts as 2 strands of embroidery floss. So you're going to get a really pronounced, nice looking embroidery like this one that I'm showing here. And you can see she also inserted a zipper into the Kraft Tex, but this one does not require you to turn it right side out. So if you want, you can leave the edges raw. It's basically compressed paper fibers. It's not going to fray. So like for the zipper pouch, these edges are raw and just top stitched. And you could use the 30 weight Blendables for that top stitching and add another pretty thread effect to the party. So we've got kits of this still available. It comes with some Kraft Tex. It comes with that purple zipper. It comes with some stick and stitch, and you can make this cute little kitty design and personalize it for the person of your choice. So that is a really fun project that we have kitted up that is all ready to go. All you have to do is open it and start creating. So that is really fun. All right, so again, I wanted to show the Blendables book because this is full of tons and tons of projects as well as tips and techniques for working with these heavier weight threads. So that is our giveaway today. I'm going to go ahead and go to the comments because tons have been coming in and I want to address some of your questions that you have. So let me just adjust here. Okay. What is the Kraft Tex? I've never used it. Okay, Sue. So Kraft Tex is a craft paper fabric. That's what they call it. It's developed or sold by C&T Publishing, but we happen to have some at Sulky.com. And like I just mentioned, we have this great webinar kit. Also, just like all of our webinars, that webinar is on demand. You can watch it at any time. So if you want more Kraft Tex information or more information on how to do the hand embroidery on the Kraft Tex, head on over to our resources page at sulky.com and you can find that webinar and get all the information. But it's basically, like I said, kind of a compressed paper fiber. I am not an expert on this product. If you want more information, please seek it out on the good old internet. But I have used it for a couple of projects and it gives you this look of kind of worn leather. It's not, you know, it wouldn't be suitable for a whole garment. It's for accessories. So putting an accent strip on a bag or making a key ring or making a wallet, you know, a coin purse, things like that. It's really, really fun for that. And we actually had a pillow. It's on our free project page at sulky.com where there are strips of the Kraft Tex, I think. This might be cork fabric now that I'm thinking about it. But you could use Kraft Tex in a pillow. I would piece it together with some different fabrics so that your pillow has a nice feel to it and doesn't feel like paper when you're sitting next to it. But it's just a really fun kind of new material to work with, and the Blendables really hold up well on the surface of the Kraft Tex, and that's why I paired the two together for that laptop tote. Okay. Yes, Beth says it would be great to use for bags, big or small. That is correct. Anything you would use a heavier weight fabric for that is an accessory, you can try using Kraft Tex. Okay. What size needle should you use with Kraft Tex? So it really depends on what you're doing, but I would make sure that the needle has a very sharp point. A traditional embroidery needle is going to have a slight ball point. I didn't know this for the longest time, but it really does have a very slight ball point. So does a universal needle. Not as much as a ballpoint needle, but it is slightly curved at the bottom. It is not as sharp or as pointy as, say, a top stitch needle. So I like to use a top stitch needle. For the 30 weight thread, you really need a 90-14. The 90-14 is going to give you a needle hole that is large enough to accommodate that thread. And what I also like to do, let me show you. When I am choosing a needle for my project, just to make sure it's going to work well for me, I take the needle out of the packaging, I take a strand of thread. Now, I just had a 70-10 needle next to my machine because I was sewing with the cotton and steel, which is a 50 weight. And I like to use 70-10 needles for the 50 weight cotton. So I'm going to show you what happens when I try to use a 30 weight thread in a 70-10 needle. And I do this off of the machine before it's threaded, before I've chosen the needle, when I say to myself, I wonder if the 70-10 is going to work for this 30 weight thread. I go ahead and first off try to thread it off of the machine. And this 30 weight thread didn't even want to go through the needle hole. I had to really coerce it to get it in there. That's because the thread is too heavyweight for the needle. But I did manage to get it in there, okay? And here it fell off, wouldn't you know? So your first indication that it's not going to work is you struggle to get it in there. See what has happened to the end of my thread? Can you see that? It has totally frayed apart because I was forcing it through the needle hole. That is my first indication that my needle is not big enough for my thread. Secondly, I will take my strand of thread and pass the needle across it. And it is kind of catching a little bit. Do you see that? It's I have to kind of shake it down there. It doesn't want to go on its own. That means my needle is too small. So I would go up at least one size and keep doing that. And then when I find the needle where it glides across and it's easy to thread, that is the one I'm going to choose for the project. Also, we have a lot of information at sulky.com about which needles to pair with which thread. And if you go to the Organ Needles page at sulky.com, it is under Tools and Supplies. You'll find needles and organ needles. There is a great chart about the different types of needles available. So differences between a jeans needle, a top stitch needle, an embroidery needle, a universal needle, and kind of the overall, I don't want to say rule, but recommendation for what to use where. Now, there are always exceptions to every rule, so that is why we always recommend doing a little bit of test stitching. Whether you're doing embroidery, quilting, deco stitching, top stitching, even just sewing a straight seam. Always just do a little test beforehand and make sure everything is balanced, everything looks the way you want it to. You will thank yourself in the end, believe me. If you have hooped up some expensive silk chiffon and you have sandwiched it between your Fabri-Solvi like you know to do, and you go to embroider it and all of a sudden you realize your needle is too large and now you've got holes in the chiffon. You're gonna really wish you had done that test stitch out. So I highly recommend buying a little bit of extra fabric and making sure that your combination of needle, thread, stabilizer, fabric are all working together, okay? Okay, Lynn wants to know, what is the name of Flect star thread? It is Polystar. So you were almost there, Polystar thread. This is brand new at sulky.com and it comes in 54 different color and glitter combinations. So you can get blue with silver, blue with blue, blue with gold, and burgundy with burgundy fleck, burgundy with gold fleck. So lots of different options that you can get for your glittery projects. Great for Halloween coming up, really great for the holidays coming up because we need a little sparkle in our lives for all of those things. Okay, so I want to make sure we're addressing all the questions. If I don't get to your question, please email info@sulky.com. And we are always here for you to answer your questions about Sulky products, Sulky projects, that type of thing. So we try to get back to you as soon as we can, as soon as possible. And make sure you email us if you don't get the answer you're looking for today. Okay, thank you, Linda. Linda says, I've been sewing for years, but the information that you are providing is great. I have really compiled a lot of great sewing tips and tidbits over the past, it seems like I've been in this industry forever, but it's really been about 16 or so years. And it's been so great to learn from all of these wonderful veterans of the sewing industry, Nancy Zeman, Carol Ingram, Sue Hausman. Oh my gosh, Sue Hausman is full of just the greatest sewing tips and tricks. And, I like to call them shortcuts, things that just make your sewing easier. I had the privilege of hosting Sew It All TV on PBS for 9 seasons, and I got to meet some of the greatest people, and I learned this and this and this and this, and I just tried to soak it all in. So I'm really glad that I can pass it on to some of you, and I hope that it makes your life at the sewing machine easier, faster, more fun. And working with great products is always your first step to having success at the sewing machine. There is really something to be said about spending an extra dollar on that spool of thread, and sometimes you don't have to spend an extra dollar. It's just a matter of getting that education and understanding what is high quality and what is mediocre, and what is going to make my stitch out balanced and perfect the first time, and what to look out for. So Sulky just makes it really, really easy for me to believe in all of these great tips and tricks, and I shouldn't say believe in, but hopefully you know what I'm talking about. I'll stop gushing now. Let's get back to the questions. Shirley says she loves using Blendables. Me too. If you've never tried that thread, I'm sure you'll figure out a purpose for it in your life. Like I said, machine embroidery, it's great. Quilting, oh my gosh. 30 weight Sulky Blendables for quilting. It works great in a long arm machine. If I don't have enough time to do quilting on my own, or I want a big quilting project done, I take it to a long armor and I give her the thread as well. I say, use this 30 weight Blendables. And it works great. It comes in big cones and down to the smaller king spools as well. Connie says, I've never seen that needle selection tip before. That is something I learned from Sue Hausman. She showed me that tip on Sew It All TV years ago, and I was like, how have I never thought of that? Brilliant. So we have to give Sue Hausman credit for that one. Okay, Steve says, your ideas for checking thread and needle size is excellent. Again, thank you, Sue Hausman. Appreciate you. Okay, I'm trying to get to the questions. I apologize. There is a lot to sift through and make sure that I'm addressing. So, and again, if you are commenting, putting your questions out there, liking and sharing the post, you could win our giveaway today, which is the Sulky Blendables thread book. Great tips and lots of project ideas. And also, if you missed the top of the show today, because some people are just coming on, I see, if you missed the top of the show, be sure to watch once the live stream ends, because I talk about our National Sewing Month giveaway sweepstakes, where you could win a serger, a bunch of Sulky thread and stabilizers, some scissors and rotary cutter from Havel Sewing, and an awesome fat quarter bundle from Cotton and Steel. Okay, so check that out. Go to the links in the post to enter to win. I just wanted to make sure that if you're just joining us, that you be sure to check that out, because man, you could win a new serger, you could try out the Cotton and Steel thread, you could get some Polystar and get your collection of colors started. Just fantastic. Okay, Mary says, good idea to experiment with thread and needle before prepping it on the sewing machine. I know, I love that. Okay, I'm so sorry, I'm trying to sift through these questions. Again, if I don't get to your question, please feel free to email us at info@sulky.com. I also go through all these questions after the live stream and I address them in the comments. So it might be a little while, but I will comment and let you know my recommendation for, to solve your problem or issue. Sandra loves the Blendables colors. There are so many different color combinations. A lot of them are labeled for holidays too. So there's an America the Beautiful, there's a Christmas themed one. So if you're unsure of what you think or unsure of what might work for your project, think about the theme, that type of thing. Think about the seasonality. There are ones that are labeled spring and things like that. And you can navigate that way. Okay, Lynn says, what size needle do I use with 30 weight thread? So we recommend a 90-14. An 80-12 may work, okay? But honestly, I use a 90-14 100% of the time. And again, that top stitch needle for the Kraft Tex works great. If I am using it for quilting, I'll use a quilting needle. I've used it with a universal needle as well for decorative stitching on lighter weight fabric, and it has been fine. If you are using a heavier weight thread with a lighter weight fabric, putting a little bit of stabilizer on your fabric is a great idea, okay? It's going to add like a thread count to your fabric so that the thread has more to grab onto. And if you don't want the stabilizer to remain with your project after you have sewn it, choose Sulky Fabrisolvi. That way, after your stitching is complete, it will completely rinse away. If you do want it to remain and you want a little bit more stability to the project, let's say you're making a wall hanging and you don't want it to sag over time if you're going to hang it and maybe replace it and whatever, you just need a little bit more stability, use the Sulky Soft and Sheer. That's what I would recommend for a lighter weight fabric like a quilting cotton that you want to support that 30 weight thread. All right. Are Blendables different than watercolor? Karen, I don't really understand your question. Is there a thread out there that's called watercolor? Please give me a link in the comments because I am not familiar with that. And also email us at info@sulky.com. We could do a little research and get that information to you. I'm just not sure about it. Okay. Marcella asks, does stick and stitch come in sheets that can go through a printer? Yes. So this is a sheet of stick and stitch. It has a fabric-like surface on one side. That is what you want to print on. So when you run it through your printer, you want to make sure you are printing on the fabric-like side. And then there is a paper side on the other. The paper side is what you're going to peel away so that you can stick this to the right side of your fabric and sew right through it. It's great for handwork. You can also map out free motion, a free motion design on here, put it on top of your fabric, do your free motion, and wash it completely away. So it's actually kind of like compressed fibers that just kind of wash away entirely. It's wonderful stuff. I have also cut strips of it and used it for straight line quilting to make sure that I'm going to stitch in a straight line. It's great if you are teaching a beginner to who is like, how do I sew straight? How do I sew in a straight line? How do I space out my quilting in perfect lines? How do I map out my decorative stitching? That type of thing, you can use it for that. There's so many different applications for it. So yes, you can run that through the printer. Okay, Estelle says, would the Blendables be perfect for edging placemats, table runners, or coasters like woolly nylon? It's going to have a little bit different feel than the woolly nylon because it's cotton thread, but yes, it works great in the serger. You can do a decorative overlock stitch to finish even fleece blankets. But yes, placemats. We have a great blog post on these 4th of July placemats that were serged, or I guess there were napkins and a placemat. The edges were just serged using the decorative 30 weight thread. And you can check that out on the Sulky blog, and it just works great for that. Use the 30 weight in your loopers and you can have some really great effects. Okay. Lots of people have great ideas for using the Kraft Tex. If you do go ahead and use it with the Sulky thread, please use the hashtag #SoBetterWithSulky and post your creations, because I love to see what everyone is creating from all of these wonderful products that we are putting out into the universe. So, okay. Sharon says, is Kraft Tex heavy enough for a key fob? It sure is. I might use 2 layers of it, but it is pretty heavyweight. And like I said, it's used for, or it's great for like a wallet or a little coin purse. So I would assume if you can use it for that, you could use it for a key ring, embroidering on it, and then maybe backing it even with a cotton fabric, like putting a little print fabric in with it. That would be a really cute idea. Tammy is asking, do you have a Polystar kit? So we did have a Polystar kit. We actually gave a sneak peek of Polystar in with our Hobo Cork Bag webinar kit that we did back in February. And I'm not sure if any of those kits are still available. They sold like hotcakes. And we gave everybody who got that kit a sneak peek of the Polystar. They got a matching thread to their cork fabric. So we had a charcoal cork version and a red cork version, cardinal red. And so we did. Right now, we are just selling the single spools of Polystar, but stay tuned, because I can all but guarantee that there will be lots of Polystar in our futures. So, can you use a serger on Kraft Tex? That is a great question. So like I said before, the more needle penetrations you have in the Kraft Tex, the more likely it's going to want to perforate. Now, I've done a lot of sewing on it. I've done a lot of embroidery tests on it. There was one embroidery I did that had a lot of fill stitches that did perforate along one of the edges of the embroidery. And I was like, nope, not doing that anymore. So you know, the serger has 2 needles and then the loopers, right? So you're going to have a lot more needle penetrations. And I would just do a test and see. You might be able to do a pretty decorative edge on the Kraft Tex, but do a small test on a little swatch before you get started. It might just be better if you can control things more on your sewing machine. Lengthen that stitch. You know, use a pointier needle than maybe you're used to with your traditional sewing or top stitching or decorative stitching. Okay. All right, lots and lots of questions coming in. Oh, Brenda, thank you. Brenda says, Kraft Tex is like the material that jeans tags are made with. That explains it very well. That's really how it feels. And I think those jean tags might be leather in some instances, if I'm thinking about the same thing you are. So yeah, it really does have this unique texture to it. And it's really fun for accessories. And of course, I always want to add embroidery to things or personalize it in some way with some fun top stitching with the Blendables thread. All right. Oh, thank you, Violet. Violet went in here and linked to the organ needle selector guide that we have on Sulky. So if you are looking for that, Violet went ahead and added the link for us. So if you want to print that out, that's a great resource to kind of laminate and hang in your sewing room right by your machine. And then you always have a reference for, okay, what needle should I use when and where? So that's great. Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. She says Sulky has great info for sewing on the website. The needle info definitely has helped me. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. So again, if I don't get to your question, never fear. I will address it after the post is live today. And oh, Tony is asking, how often are you on? So I do So What on Facebook every Tuesday. And I also post the video on our YouTube channel. So if you want to go through all the past So What's, we are on episode 39 now. 39. If you want to see any of our past episodes, you can head on over to our YouTube channel. There is a So What playlist, and you can click on that and see all of the episodes thus far. If you just really need to binge some So What, that is available to you. Ooh, Paula, great question. If I could only afford one stabilizer, what should it be? This is a loaded question, and I love it so much. So I hate to say it like this, but it really depends on what type of sewing you love to do. Are you more of a quilter? Are you more of a garment sewer? Are you more of a machine embroiderer? Or do you love to do handwork? So once you identify that, I can say for machine embroidery, I probably use the Sticky Plus most often. I mention it all the time on this show. It is my favorite Sulky stabilizer because I can embroider almost anything on it. I love doing hoopless embroidery because it allows me to get my fabric perfectly placed in the hoop without having to hoop, unhoop, rehoop, reposition, hoop it again. I can just mark my design on my fabric, have the stabilizer already hooped, and then place my fabric onto the stabilizer in the right spot. So I feel like it's a time saver, and it's just an excellent, excellent product. And it tears away completely once your embroidery is complete. So for embroidery, that's probably my go-to if you could only afford one. For quilting, again, it's probably going to depend on the type of quilting that you're doing. Either soft and sheer or Fabri-Solvi for me on the quilting, depending on technique. For garment sewing, that is a toughie because it's going to depend on your type of garment. Okay, so is it a knit or a woven? So for a knit, probably going to go with either Fabri-Solvi or sticky Fabri-Solvi because I want to stabilize it while I'm sewing it, and then I want it to wash away completely. I love doing hemming knits using the sticky Fabri-Solvi because I can turn my hem, double fold it or however I'm going to do it, then apply a strip of the sticky Fabri-Solvi on the wrong side to hold my hem in place, then sew it, then wash it away. Love doing that. If it's a woven fabric that I am working on for garment sewing, again, lots of variables. If I had to just pick one, maybe Tender Touch, maybe Soft and Sheer Extra, which is a fusible. I use that as fusible interfacing most of the time. And then if it's handwork, Stick and Stitch, 100%. Gotta have it. So that was a loaded question, and I gave you a loaded answer. All right. Are magnetic hoops good for Kraft Tex? I don't have a magnetic hoop, so I will get back to you on that question because I just don't know. If any of you have one and have used it, please add your opinion or your comment so that we know. I apologize, June. I have not used that, so I don't know. Again, I like to stick with the hoopless embroidery and the sticky stuff, but someday I will be able to use those magnetic hoops because I have heard great things about them. Okay. Oh, Shirley has a question about the National Sewing Month giveaway. How many times can you enter to win? So you can enter to win, I believe, multiple times. Oh my gosh, I should know this. I do know there are lots of different ways to enter for multiple entries. So it may be just one time, and then the more you share it, the more entries you get. And for example, if you like our Instagram feed, you get some more entries. Liking us on Facebook, you would get an entry. Referring a friend, you get 4 entries. Signing up for our newsletter, you get 3 entries. So I believe it's one main entry, and then there are ways of entering multiple times. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. I'll get back to you though. I will be sure to comment on that once I'm 100% sure. Kathy is asking, what type of bobbin thread do we use with Blendables? So it depends on your application, okay? But in general, you either want to use the same or a lighter weight thread in the bobbin. So for machine embroidery, I would use the 60 weight Sulky bobbin thread. If I am doing a quilt, I use the same in the bobbin as I do on the top so that I have the pretty on both sides. So it really depends on what you're working on. All right. Marlene is anxious to try the Blendables and Polystar threads. Head on over to sulky.com because, like I mentioned before, we have a great sale that is starting today for National Sewing Month. Be sure to jot down these coupon codes. The more you spend, the more you save, and these are great deals. $30 off $100. You know, that's a whole lot of savings. So be sure to take advantage of these when you are stocking up on those Blendables and the Polystar. Okay. What bobbin thread with the Polystar thread? This is kind of the same answer. So for Polystar, if I'm going to see the wrong side, so if I'm embroidering on a hand towel, if I am making a quilt, if I'm quilting and I want to see that sparkle on the wrong side, I use Polystar in the bobbin, no problems. If I'm doing machine embroidery, I will use Sulky bobbin thread, just the 60 weight bobbin thread, either white or black, depending on my fabric color. I will use that if I am not going to see the wrong side. So if it's going to be lined, something like that, I will just use Sulky bobbin thread because why waste that beautiful sparkle on the wrong side if nobody's going to see it? That's the way I look at it. So, okay. Thank you, Vicki. Loving the tips and tricks. Also, a lot of you do this and I appreciate it so much. I want to know your tips and tricks too. We're here to learn from each other. So please, if you have tips for anything I'm talking about today, post them in the comments so we can all learn from each other together. Scotty says, need to get some Polystar. Might be the only Sulky product I do not have. Yes, it is brand new. So be sure to get your hands on some. It's so awesome. Connie wants to know if the blendable thread case is available separately or only with the thread case bundle. So I assume you're referring to just the slimline container. They are available as collections with thread. You can also get a slimline container on its own. So if you have a lot of Sulky thread and you have run out of places to store it, or you want a great storage solution, grab yourself an empty slimline container. For those of you that missed it at the top of the show today, they hold lots of spools of thread. You can get them to hold these king spools, or you can also get them to hold the smaller snap spools. So your rayon threads for embroidery, if you purchase them as snap spools rather than king spools, you can get the slimline that holds those as well. And like I was showing earlier, you press on this little tab and it brings your thread out. So it's really easy to get in and out of there and stores it really nicely. So yes, you can buy them separately, in short. Okay. Melody says, yes, Blendables are also great to use in Sergers. Agreed. So awesome. Ooh, Bev just received her pack of glowy thread. Yay! We talked about glowy last week when I showed off that really cute bat table runner. So if you missed that So What, head on over to our YouTube channel and you can watch it in its entirety where we showcased glowy threads for quilting. Roxy wants to know if Polystar thread can be used on sergers. Yes, it can. Anytime you're using a heavier weight thread, you want to really consider it for the loopers rather than the needles in most cases, because the loopers are going to showcase just a lot more thread. Your needles are doing your sort of more utility portion of serger stitching. So you can use it in all four areas, the needles and the loopers. And, you know, some sergers have lots more than just 3 or 4 thread capabilities. This one right here, the Baby Lock Triumph, I believe goes up to, well, there's 8 threads possible on there, and then I think there's also an extension for 2 more. Clearly, I've never used the extension, but I desperately want to. So for those of you new to serging, or you want to get more out of your serger investment, or you are entering to win our National Sewing Month giveaway where you could win a serger and a bunch of Sulky threads and stabilizers, among other things, and you happen to win that puppy, you are going to need some serger education. So next week, we have our Serger webinar with Katrina Walker, and she is going to tell us a lot about threads to use in your serger. Because, spoiler alert, you do not have to use thread that is serger thread. You can pretty much use any thread that you like in your serger. So my short answer to you, Roxy, is yes, of course you can use Polystar in your serger. And definitely sign up for our webinar next week where we will be going in depth into Sergerville. So next week, Katrina is actually going to join me on the So What, so you can hear from her, and we will give you a little sneak peek into the webinar that's happening later that day. So join me next week when we dive into serger education a little bit more. Be sure to sign up for our National Sewing Month sweepstakes and share that with all of your sewing friends. Just a great, great prize to win. So thanks for joining me today, everyone. I will get to your questions as soon as possible in the comments. I appreciate you hanging out with me this afternoon, and I will see you next time.